So the first question, and we will just start. It says, why are you running for city council, whether that be mayor or city council? We'll start with Keith and we'll go down a couple minutes and we'll go from there.
One quick lesson on how to use a microphone. Hold that thing right here. Oh, really? Just so we're before 11. Thank you.
Okay,
Why am I running for city council?
for city office.
City office, all right. It is? It's not? Oh, wait. As long as the light is on, it means it's on? Okay. We looked around it back in 1982 and said, if we're gonna stay here, we've gotta do something about this town. And it's been my pleasure to have been the mayor for 25 out of the last 42 years. We've accomplished much. We have accomplished much. I have accomplished little. I've facilitated. I want to continue to help facilitate the progress of Henderson. And I think with the stresses that are on us right now, with the road reconstruction, the recent record flood, there's critical things that have to be dealt with before I go on to glory. So I'm going to run one more time. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lisa Steinborn. I've lived in Henderson for the last 25 years. Married to Jeff Steinborn, who's very active in this community, owns a small business. I've had 3 children that were raised here in town. I'm running because I love this town. As a dedicated member of this community, I believe in the potential of our city and the importance of working together to create a vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable future for all of our residents.
Hi, I'm Steve Saulner, running for mayor. Appreciate everybody that showed up here tonight.
It is. Is it on?
It's on. It is green. Okay, it was green the first time. Maybe I'm mumbling again like my wife says. Anyway, I appreciate everybody showing up tonight. I grew up on a farm and I've been in the construction industry for a little over 40 years. A lot of highways and bridges and whatever comes along with it. I moved here almost 7 years ago, and I kind of got out of the construction business because my wife had cancer, and I decided my kids were over here, so I would, why not? I was used to working 8 days a week. I figured, well, maybe I shouldn't do life's too short to be calling it a hobby, so I moved here. I like to be involved. I've been involved with cities, townships, worked with FEMA. It's not a fun thing working with them, but I like to get involved. I see things that need to be done, and I'm not afraid to dig in and get my hands dirty to do it. We've done some great things here already, the streets, and Keith has been involved with that and making decisions, and we still got some streets that need to be done, and our water, I have a major problem with. I don't think it's being maintained like it should be, but a water treatment plant's probably years down the road yet. I want to see if I can bring in other entities to help us figure this out and keep it maintained like I think it should be. We have a couple other departments. What I really want, if we're going to throw taxpayer money at things, I want results. Not just throw money out and the same thing over year after year after year, and you still get the same results and getting nowhere with it. And it's not a lot of problems we have in town, but we have a few. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name's Troy Kester. I have My family and I have lived in Henderson for 23 years. My wife, Carrie, and I for 20 in our current home. We have 3 daughters that we've raised in this community, as has been expressed by some others. We love Henderson. I've had family in town and been coming here since the 1970s. And I hear from neighboring communities, you guys do so many good things in Henderson, and Henderson has such a good vibe. The reason I'm running for city council, I have had the pleasure, in most cases, of working in community journalism for about 20 years, and with that, covering local school boards, local city councils, and long had admiration for those people that step to the fore and serve in those positions. So many election cycles, I've talked to my wife about potentially throwing my hat in the ring, and we have one less in our house. She's moved on, so the timing seemed right to take this opportunity and maybe win a seat on the Henderson City Council, and we'll go from there. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Amy Hartle, and I have lived in Henderson for over 30 years. I have my husband, Mark, and we have 3 children. I grew up on a dairy farm outside of Henderson in the Rush River area. The reason I am running for re-election for city council is because I care about this town and the residents. I care about what's going on here. I'd like to see the town continue to grow and prosper, but also to keep the small town historic charm that we have. I think we have a lot of unique things going on, a lot of great people here, and I'd like to see that continue. And I want to finish the projects and different things that we've been working on for city council.
Hi, I'm Jeff Dom. I'm probably the newest guy here. I've only been here for about 4 years, so this is all kind of new to me. But when I first moved here, I figured I'd start going to a city council meeting just to find out what the town is about. And I found out a lot of things, but there's things that I do want to see improve. And the biggest thing is water. I just don't understand it, so that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, second question, and this time we'll start with Lisa. What qualities, experience, or skills can you bring to the role?
I have a background in civil service. I have developed a strong understanding of the challenges and tremendous opportunities that Henderson is going to have once our roads are being done. I was on the LSH school board as well as many other community boards, and one thing I was taught by that is not one person can change an outcome of an entire city. It involves teamwork, listening, and active engagement by all members.
My experience is life experience, actually, just hands-on, working with townships, city government, projects that we've done over the year, I've been involved with over the years, whether it's through co-ops, building storage sheds and all kinds of stuff. And basically, I had 3 township meetings a month that I had to go to, let alone the county meetings I've been to for county ditches, highways, whatever. That's probably I'm an infrastructure guy. That's probably my biggest thing. I like seeing things done, and I mean, you take a look at the new streets we've got done, and that's right up my alley. It beautifies the town as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, that's pretty much what I'm about.
Very much like Steve, much of my work experience is why I think I'm a good candidate for the city council. I spent, as I mentioned, 12 years in community journalism, covering school boards, city councils, police departments. And with that, I feel confident that I would be able to hit the ground running if elected. Understanding how things work would be of great benefit to me. With that experience, I have spent a lot of time with people asking questions and gathering information and making sense of it, not only for myself, but sharing it for the readers and trying to present it to them in a manner that it makes sense to them. A lot of this stuff can be complicated, and if we can simplify it in layman's terms and help the people understand what they're facing and what we're considering in making decisions, I think I've gained a good background in that through some of that newspapering experience. Secondly, I've had many, many years in construction management. Currently, I work for a construction company, and I'm responsible for all of our equipment. I make decisions every day that for my employer, where we're getting quotes for the work we need to have done, we're setting expectations with the people that we need to do that work so that they know what we expect of them for the dollars that we're spending. And I would couple my experience in construction management in much the same manner, in which you're trying to manage costs and you're also managing subcontractors so that they understand what needs to be done, when it needs to be done by, and some of those cost restraints that they might have. So my goal as a member of the city council would be to provide value for, make sure we're getting the value for the tax dollars that we're paying, our property taxes, and I think a lot of my background and work experience makes me a good candidate to do so. Thank you.
My experience for city council, I work for an investment firm. I've worked there for 11 years. So I have experience with finance, budget. I was on the Henderson School Board for 6 years. I'm very dedicated to the community because I do volunteer a lot. I'm on the Sarkoff Days Committee. I'm Henderson Recreation Aid. I'm on the Nye Nature Center Board. I'm on the Chamber. There's many others, and I'm sure I serve with some of you here. But I'm very dedicated to the town, and I feel like I would be a good candidate for city council.
I've got a lot of experience. I'm an original pipeliner from the Alaska Pipeline. I was on that for 6 years in the Arctic Circle. I've built refineries, oil refineries over in Hawaii. I've been all over. I really think that I can help this town. I was a fireman paramedic out in Oregon for 10 years, so I've worked with communities, and I think I'd be a good match for this.
I was born here 75 years ago. I don't want to make this too long. As a lifelong resident of Henderson, I know the city, I know its history, and I know its people. I guess if you ask me why, what experience I have, I've been doing this over 4 decades, actually the 5th decade. One of the things I always come back to is flood control. In the early 80s, you couldn't get a building permit because it was controlled by the DNR. We bugged the DNR long enough to get the Army Corps of Engineers involved. It took us from 84 to 90 to get the Army Corps of Engineers to rebuild the dike, the levee. It took, in 2002, a study was done by the Army Corps of Engineers. That's the last hydrological study done. The road raising was based on that study. Now, we recently had a record flood by almost 2 feet higher than the record. Been hounding the Army Corps of Engineers to redo that study to give us the information necessary to make sure that Henderson remains protected. I am uniquely experienced and informed to continue working on these projects, and that's what I want to do. Thanks.
Okay, question number 3, and we start with you, Steve. In what ways does the city need to improve? In what ways is it currently succeeding?
We have succeeded with, we're rolling with the streets now and getting water mains that updated that were 80, 90 years old. This town is unbelievable with the volunteerism. I mean, it's great, but we still need to work a little harder and get our young people involved here. Some of the people are getting up in age and they've been taking it on, but they're not going to do it forever. So I would suggest as parents or grandparents, or tell your kids to get out there, whether it's a couple hours a month or whatever, and help pull some weeds, whatever, get involved and take a little pride in your community. And I always say I was born with a pitchfork and a shovel in my hand, and I don't know any better, but these kids have to get out there and get involved, and we got things that need to be done yet. We got windows in the community building that need to be painted. We have issues with the fountain. There's many things yet that need to be done, but I think we pick away at it, it'll come.
We have family throughout the state, so as we travel north, south, east, and west to visit family, we go through a lot of small towns, and many of them have desolate main streets and seem to lack a real sense of vibrancy. And one thing that Henderson has always succeeded at, and one thing that we hear repeatedly from visitors to our community, and certainly those in neighboring communities, is the vibrancy that Henderson has, whether it's the local committees and the involvement from the people in the town to beautify it and to keep that heart beating. That's where Henderson succeeds. We've talked about some of the streets getting fixed. Where does Henderson need some help? I think one thing that we really need to focus on is once the roads open up from the north and the south, Henderson has been a focal point of a lot of regional magazine articles about one of the top 5 main streets that you might visit, or Andrew Zimmern wrote a piece about food festivals and mentioned sauerkraut days. So the word is out that this is a vibrant community. So we need to, when these roads open up, make sure that we're in position to hit the ground running and put ourselves back on the map to attract those people that come down through the scenic byway and visit us on weekends. And then we're doing that. It helps us keep our main street vibrant. And certainly the water. I have 3 daughters and a wife at home, and when they shower somewhere other than Henderson, Minnesota, they talk about how beautiful their hair turns out. So water is certainly a conversation that this community has to have. What's fiscally reasonable in terms of what we can do to mitigate that is a conversation that is going to be long and drawn on. But those are a few things that I think we're good at, and a couple things that we need to address. Thank you.
So a couple of things that City Council has been working on that I think they've done a good job on is the street projects. They're near completion, and we replaced water and sewer lines, so that's all helping the water situation a little bit. The water, we do need to work on. We have been working on it, but unfortunately it's not a quick fix. So we will continue to work on that and see what solutions we can come up with. I also agree with Troy on all the volunteerism and everything that's going on in town. We have a lot to be proud of, and I think that everyone in town has been doing a great job. I'd like to continue to see buildings on Main Street get filled. We have a couple vacancies. I'd like to see new businesses come in. Another thing that we need to work on is housing. We have a need for housing, and as soon as our roads are open, we're going to have more people moving to town. So we're looking at some housing opportunities and things that we can do there. Otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of great things going on here. We do have a lot to be proud of.
I've dealt with the Army Corps of Engineers before. I lived in Red Wing for 10 years or 8 years. And one of the things that you have to do is we always dredge down there. And that helped with the flooding. Because if you keep the bottom lower, it holds the water in rather than flooding all the time. Why we haven't been doing that around here, I don't quite understand. The Minnesota River does do it because they dredge it out all the way up to Shakopee. But from Minnesota, or from Mankato up to 41, they don't dredge it. We've got a problem. There's no reason to have this problem, and I know this problem has been here for 100 years. It's time to do something.
I think what makes Henderson unique is the fact that you really got to want to live here. And I think people move here because they fall in love with the place, and they stay here because they fall in love with the place. It's difficult to get here for quite a bit of the year. We get landlocked. We're under threat by the river constantly, but people still keep coming. And and that reflects in the way people feel about the community. We have succeeded to the amazement and envy of our neighbors, as I think Troy alluded to. We're a very unique place. There are no other small towns in southwestern Minnesota that can claim what we can claim. The successes we've made over the years, the volunteers that have built on those successes, and now we've got the splash pad being created. We've got the Hummingbird Center. I mean, these are unique situations, and these are incredible things to be proud of. The Minnesota River is not considered navigable. That's why they they dredge it from Shakopee down, or from Shakopee down. And unfortunately, they won't even consider dredging the Minnesota River. But we need the data from the Army Corps of Engineers in order to address the issues that we face. Increased runoff from agriculture is one part of it, but the overgrown river bottoms slows down the water too. There's no good reason for Henderson to have had a record flood when Mankato and Jordan did not show a record flood. And without the Army Corps of Engineers data, we are howling in the wind. So that's the biggest threat I see. But it's still a great place.
So to start with kind of what needs to happen, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this is such a small community, and we've had a really tough decade. We've had decrease in local government aid, floods, road closures. We lost our public school. We've had some business turnovers. Our water, which will continue to try to implement something before we actually can spend the $5 million that we need to get a treatment plant, and housing. However, our little small government, the volunteerism in this community, is what really is assisting this community to continue to thrive. We have a library that people come from all around to come to. It's an amazing library. We have a gas and grocery store in a town of 1,000 people. It's pretty rare. Recent road construction, and that's going to include a bike trail that will assist with our tourism for years to come. We have multiple successful festivals, and we do have some new homes that have sprung up in the last 10 to 15 years. We have parks, a sledding hill, a new pickleball court, splash pad coming. Our Lions, our fire department, our Legion, they're all integral parts of what makes this community thrive.
Okay. Henderson has 2 roads closed for the next 2 years. What can the city do to help draw in people and promote local businesses during this period? And Troy, you're up to bat.
Can I defer and listen to the other people's answers first? Well, we talked about Henderson as its own entity attracts people. culturally, Henderson has a lot going for it. We have met, my wife and I, people from all four corners of this country, that's not an exaggeration, that have visited Henderson. I drove a young couple out to the train trestle east of town one time because they wanted to see where Prince, they filmed that movie. So what can Henderson do? I think at present day, the roll-in is a wonderful thing. And how do we explore ways to continue to market our community? I touched on being ready to hit the ground running when the roads open up, and I think that is our first and foremost quest as a community, is to make sure that we don't get lost during these times. I think the roll-in suffered a little bit this year with those roads being closed. So anything we can do to get some popularity or word out about our community to some of those regional resources that promote local things that are going on would be of great benefit during this time. Thank you.
So I'm on the chamber, and the chamber has formed a marketing committee, and we are working on that very question. So some of the ideas that the marketing committee is working on is possibly doing a billboard out on the highway, letting know people that, even though some of our roads are closed, that we are still open for business and tourism. We've talked about possibly doing some radio ads, maybe some social media ideas and things. But I think a big thing is just having activities and things for people to do in town. So last weekend, the Henderson Recreation had a splash pad fundraiser. We had a great turnout, and we had people come from all area towns to it. So we were very pleased with the turnout, that it wasn't just Henderson people there supporting this. So I think we just need to continue doing those things and get people into town.
I know the roads have been closed, but I truly believe that once 6 and 93 are open, I think we really should start getting more and more bikers in here. Start promoting more bike runs down in this area. When you've got a river valley like this with all the roads and everything, a lot of bikers come in. Some people think that bikers are bad. They're not. Most bikers now are doctors and lawyers and everything else. They just want to play bike. And that's good because they like to spend money.
Along with Amy, I've been working on the task force with the chamber for the interim promotion of Henderson. I talked to Tim Becker day before yesterday, the Sibley County engineer, and County Road 6 will probably be paved next June, and that'll be finished. That's going to make a real difference for us. Having the scenic byway open is our critical link. That's where we saw probably the biggest loss of traffic for the roll-ins, for any event. I mean, literally, we didn't see the motorcycles at the roll-ins because they didn't want to get here. And they certainly weren't going to come down gravel on County Road 6. So the sooner that happens, the better. Unfortunately, Highway 93 will probably be 2026 before it's completed. But, yeah, we have to continue to tell people, you can get here, and we're still a fun bunch.
To go on what Keith and Amy said, yep, there's the Chamber of Commerce is working on a plan currently to promote Henderson. City Council put together an EDA. I think that's very important, especially for new businesses coming to town, not only financial assistance or helping them find them, but also, possibly helping with the business plan, keep businesses, sustainable so they can survive. The 1/6 is open. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have that trail. I know the trail committee has worked hours on getting this in place. And the trailhead that will go down right as you come into town will be immense. And we already have a couple business owners in town that are looking at bike rental, kayak rental, etc. So I think we're moving forward with that.
Yeah, I talked to the engineer too, yeah, and and Mathewitz, they're hoping that by the second week of June, to have that weather permitting, that road paved and hopefully traffic rolling for sure by the end of the month. And the one thing this community, what I get hit on a lot is people want a retirement home in this town. A nice retirement place, complex. We need to figure out where we can build something or purchase the property to get this done. This thing working. And I would prefer, like to have it closer to downtown so they got access to Waggers and the amenities you got on Main Street going on. If some property comes along, I don't know if the city has to get involved with that too, to help through the ADA to get something going, but it is a big thing. People want to stay in the town. They don't want to leave because they're elderly and they're probably not getting around as good as they used to, but we need to really look at that.
Were you talking about me? You talking about me, the elderly, the king? Oh, okay. Pretty close, though. Okay. We start with Amy. How would you describe your managerial style, and how do you handle conflict?
That is a good question. Managerial style. So I am a doer. I'm a type A personality. I like to get things done, and I do not like it when things are not organized. So I like things to run smoothly. Conflict, so when I was on school board, we did a survey thing, or I don't know what you call it, but it does your personality, and my personality was harmony. I do not like conflict, but I will do my best to try and smooth out the conflict and just reassure the person that we are listening and trying to do what is best for them and the town.
With conflict, I try and stay pretty calm. I don't get angry, because if you get angry, you're going to lose every time. So I just try and be a little bit smarter and a little bit calmer.
Yeah, I try to lead by building consensus. As the mayor, conflict gets you nowhere. If it devolves into an argument, you're not going to get anywhere. And I think I'm pretty successful at being able to build on an idea, get buy-in, meet people halfway. By nature, I'm an introvert. I'd rather be at home, so I tend to try to get meetings over as fast as I possibly can.
I'm currently an RN at the St. Peter's Regional Treatment Center, so I deal with mentally insane and dangerous people every day. I don't care for conflict either. I think Jeff would disagree with that, but I believe conflict is always resolved with active listening and respect. Respect goes both ways. Yeah.
Well, in my lifetime in the construction business, I've been marriage counselor, family counselor. I had a guy come out to a job that I was running over between farmers with an actual gun. You know, he's going to shoot the guy because over tile lines, and you got to work with them, calm them down, and just take a step back and say, let's start over and get an even keel here that you can probably work something out, or there's always the courts. But you don't need to kill anybody over it. And yeah, I've seen it all over the years, so it's been fun.
As a leader, I think it's important that, you know, in my workplace and the things I've done, you have to be able to do or willing to do anything that you're asking someone else to do. You have to understand what you're asking them to do and what the end result of that should be. I am not a micromanager. I prefer to empower people to take responsibility for themselves. If they fall short in what I've asked of them, anyone who might work for me, I like to use words like disappointed, and maybe ask them, is this really how this should have gone? And make them recognize that, maybe I didn't quite fulfill what you asked of me. As far as conflict resolution, we went through a bit of a corporate brainwashing session a number of years ago where we studied Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of them that has always stuck with me is seek first to understand and then to be understood. So in terms of conflict resolution, I think you have to come to an understanding of what that conflict is, and it can just linger there until you get an understanding of how we're going to work to resolve this and what those steps are to resolve this, and then check back after a designated period of time to see that those parties have taken those steps to try to reach resolution to that conflict. Thank you.
3 questions left, and I think, 6 and 7 can kind of be combined, if that's okay. The Henderson Police Department has had a lot of turnover in recent years. What are your thoughts on the current level of staffing? Do you support keeping a city-run police department? Why or why not? And do you agree with the current speed limits in town? And are there any areas you think need to be changed? I know that's a lot in one, but I think you can combine your answers. And if anybody needs me to repeat it, just holler.
I like our police department. I do believe that Koski is a good officer. I believe Jake is a good officer. I've got a little bit of a problem with the chief. I think we need a change there. But otherwise, I do believe that the city ought to keep their own police department. I don't want to see it to go to the county. I don't want to see it to take over, somebody else take us over. I think we should remain with our own police department.
I want our police department to continue on independently as Henderson's police department. Henderson got the reputation as being a revolving door for its police chiefs. I think we have to be very, very careful about that happening again in the current climate. Other police departments are constantly robbing officers from other departments to fill their void. They're also raising the salaries to the point where it's very hard to fund a police department. But I have absolute confidence in all 3 of our police officers, and I want it to continue as it is.
There's quite a few in there, Denny. So yes, obviously, I'm all in favor of keeping our police department. That is a huge issue that I think as a city council, we really need to explore. What is the turnover of the police department? Why are we going through 7 chiefs in the last 12 years? Or that might not be correct, but obtaining and retaining rural police officers is already daunting. So I think just an exploration of why are Why are our police leaving? And again, is the police department funded properly? Is it underfunded? Do we need to add to some salaries to retain good officers? The speed limits, I guess, are good. I mean, we actually put up a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit sign in our little alley. We have a very busy alley because we're right next to the post office. That has seemed to help. I would love to have a speed limit sign put up there. But other than that, I guess I'm not sure of what other speed limit signs we'd need to have.
No, we need to keep our police department. I would say, though, the response time and when people call, because I get, maybe it's, you get all kinds of calls, like, oh, we called there and nobody showed up, and maybe it's just something we need to do as far as having somebody that's on call. 'Cause Sibley County, I've talked to them, they get a little uptight too because they got an officer on the other side of the county to send them all the way over to Henderson, and we have a police department here. It probably goes back to where I'm throwing good money after bad again. I want them to respond not 2 hours later or 3 hours later or 3 days later like some of them are telling me, and otherwise I have no problem with the department. It's we need them here, but to be a little more responsible as far as response time would be great.
I absolutely 100% support a local police force. I have sat up at the council chambers for many, many, many meetings as they deliberated on whether to contract with the county, start another search for yet another chief of police. Much like the school, which we all fought the battle for a number of years with the school district about keeping Hilltop open, losing a school building is losing a beat of that heart in your community, and I think contracting with the county would also chisel away a little bit at the identity of the community. I'm not really in a position to comment on local staffing. Speed limits I have no problems with the current speed limits, but if there are performance issues within the current police department, I think that some expectations could be set, and that should be pretty black and white in a matter of 6 months or 8 months if those expectations are being met. And if they're not being met, I think a follow-up conversation as to why could be had and work towards making those improvements. So, yes, 100% local police.
Can I add one thing to that? And I do agree, I don't know who wants to be a cop these days. I mean, I think it's not, just because you're in a small town doesn't mean your life's not in danger at any point. It happens. But the wages will probably have to keep good guys, you got to pay them, you got to give them good benefits, and the people of the town have to be willing to want to pay it.
I think we're very fortunate to have our own police department, and I do support them. Getting police officers is a very competitive market. When we do get police officers, sometimes a month later, they're getting a job offer from another town that is paying higher, better benefits, and they're leaving. And then we have to start looking again, and we've done this multiple times. So we're constantly looking for additional officers. They're just hard to find, but it is something that we're always working on. The speed limits, I'm fine with the speed limits. I'm not sure if there's any issues. If there is, please let us know and we'll take a look at those roads. We have talked about getting those signs with the electronic speed where it tells you how fast you're going. We have looked at getting those. They are kind of expensive to get, but it is something that we can look at if that's what people want. Thank you.
Okay, back to the beginning. Final question. What do you see being the next big priority for the city? We start with Keith.
Several things. The state wants to come in and redo Main Street as soon as 93 is finished. I'd like them to take a couple of years off from torturing us. The biggest thing right now, and the thing I keep going back to, is flood control. We've got to understand what's happening in that watershed, and we've got to have the information brought to us in a scientific fashion so we can take our problems to entities that can provide a solution, and we have data. I think that's the biggest thing. Third, the stress we are going to experience in the next 5 to 10 years with the completion of the roads. Henderson is a very attractive place to live. Houses don't stay on the market very long. So if you're willing to move to Henderson when you might be landlocked for a couple of months out of the year, what is going to happen to Henderson's attractiveness as a place to live if we have all-weather roads? That's going to put a strain on us. Growth has to be, there has to be some growth, but it has to be controlled. Otherwise, we become I don't want to create bad examples, but Lonsdale experienced real growth pains because it just basically tripled in population. I don't want to see that happening, but you have to be able to provide housing. And that's one of the needs we've identified with the design team group was housing. So, 3 things, sorry.
And I'm sure we're all going to hit on this, but, 2 things is water and safety, flooding. Water, I've spoke to this before, we need a new water filtration system. Today, it was 5.1 million. Who knows, every year that's going to get more expensive. It was in legislation for the state to help assist us with that. Unfortunately, that did get cut prior to the legislation going in to discuss it. I think with the water, what we can help fix now is number 1, just a better notification of any water anomalies that's going to happen. The fire trucks go out and they have the water trucks going. That's going to disturb the sediment. We're going to have orange water. Our road construction, hydrant flushing. Is there a better way that the city can alert our constituents that this is going to be happening so they're aware when it comes time to wash, etc. Better testing, if that's even possible. I know we've all talked about that at city council meetings. Flooding. Our flooding is a large concern. This year was a little scary. Everything went off very well. Keith has been discussing our levy with Army Corps of Engineers, and like he said, they're going to be conducting a study as to why the flood was so high this year, and then also we need to raise that levy, obviously. I think we also need prevention, preparedness, that response time, and then our recovery. We also need transparency, where information is getting to the public. It should be by our authorities, our city staff, the fire department, and the city website. I believe this very important, crucial information should not be gained by groups on Facebook. I'll go off my soapbox there. Okay.
The water is probably the biggest thing. I still say we need to have a better maintenance plan. We're not going to have this water treatment plant for, it might be a few years down the road. Rural Water was here last year, I believe it was, and we need to flush things a little more than what we've been doing to keep the system clean. I don't see why we're letting everything just build up, and then when it breaks loose, it's in everybody's homes. That's got to end. I get so many calls and complaints about, oh, what are you doing with the water? I don't know. You know, it needs to be maintained better for what we have right now. The flood control thing, yeah, we need to, that dike, after looking at it this spring, and Keith and you've all been here longer than me, but she was getting scary this year when that came up like that. And that dike is going to have to get built. I hope the Corps of Engineers gets some kind of study down soon, because we can't really wait. We don't even know what next spring's going to bring.
I think, first of all, we thank everybody for taking time on a Friday night and joining us. And the committed group of people up here, we've had a lot of good ideas and exchange, and everybody here is dedicated for the same thing, and that's the long-term well-being of the community that we've grown to love. I concur fully with the people up here that the flooding issue is a major concern. I went on the little Google thing this year with some coworkers, and I showed them right across the street from our house, the little ditch and the levee, and I said the water is within a foot on the back side of that, and they couldn't fathom how much water that is. We looked at some aerial shots, and it's really incredible how much water that was and how damaging that could be if something were to be compromised. So flooding, and we've talked enough about water to all know that this is a major, major issue that we face. But with that, it's a major expenditure at the same time. Not only a water treatment facility, but many of our pipes underground have been underground for quite some time and would probably need to be replaced. Some of these folks up here are much more well-versed on the condition of some of that than I, but certainly some of that infrastructure has been in place for a long time. I think what's very important, too, for our community is, and I also agree with Lisa, that a central place of information. A few people I've talked to about the city council and offering up my services, if so duly elected, would be people just don't seem to know where to find the information. What's the council talking about? And I can talk from experience, having written about what's going on in school boards and councils. For these things don't unfold overnight. They don't happen overnight. The council doesn't show up one day and say, or the school board doesn't show up one day and said, we're selling all the school buses and we're going to contract with an independent contractor to bus our kids. And everyone shows up and says, what the heck's going on? These are things that the councils and the school boards talk about for months. It's a soap opera. So people need to know what those discussions are so that they aren't reacting after something happens. The information is there for everybody. We need to let people know where it is, whether it's at henderson.gov or what, to let people know what we're talking about. And I think another big challenge we face is when our roads open up is to make sure Main Street is vibrant and that we're marketing our community and getting people to recognize that we're open for business, back on the map, and come see us, because you're more than welcome. You'll probably meet a friendly face on Main Street. Thank you.
That's twice. It's my turn.
You brought up the water old lines. I believe they all have been updated. We should be within reason now. I don't think there's any ancient water mains anymore. It should be done.
Okay, things that the city should work on. They actually are currently working on them. We are working on the water, and yes, we do need a filtration system. Unfortunately, it's very expensive. We're trying to figure out other options or things that we can do or how we're going to raise the money. Housing, we need housing. The design team did that meeting. We have a housing committee. As soon as these roads open up, I think they'll get going a little bit more on their meetings and planning. But we need senior housing. We need family housing. The town's going to grow as soon as the roads open up. We need to be prepared, and that's also why we were doing some of these water and sewer lines, so that we would be prepared for growth. I agree with Lisa on transparency. We need to get information out to people. They all need to know where to get it. Everybody's welcome to come to council meetings. They're the third Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock. Come to the meetings. Tell us what you're thinking. We don't know what's going on if you don't come to us. So we encourage you to let us know what you want. I had something else, and now I can't think of it.
I have that problem a lot.
I had something, but now I can't remember. So thank you.
We all know the biggest problems that we have is the water and the flooding. And until we take care of those two, we're not going to have much of a town. Because if it floods, it almost flooded over this time. It's going to get worse. That's what we got to take care of.
That was our final question. Now is your time to applaud. Thank you all for coming. I'm sure these people will stick around if you have anything you wish to question or add. We appreciate you all showing up tonight. Have a safe trip home. Thank you for coming.